Have you ever stopped to think about what the world would be like if flying cars dominated our cities? This idea, which once seemed straight out of science fiction movies, is now closer to reality than ever. But are we really ready to deal with a future where the sky becomes the new asphalt? Think about the controversies we already face with regular cars, massive traffic jams, daily accidents, pollution, political disputes over public transportation and infrastructure. Now imagine all of that happening in the air. What would it be like to live with thousands of vehicles cutting through the skies above our heads? Who would have the right to pilot a flying car? Would it be a privilege reserved only for the richest, or would it be available to anyone? And more, what about the control of urban air traffic? If we already face serious problems with ground traffic, what would happen when any citizen could simply take off from their backyard and fly to work? Would we be looking at the ultimate solution to traffic jams or creating even greater chaos? There are also environmental issues. Would flying cars truly be sustainable with electric engines and clean energy? Or would they only bring more pollution and consumption of natural resources? And what about the social impacts? Imagine a city where only a few privileged people can fly while the rest remain stuck on the ground. Would that increase inequality even more? The topic divides experts all over the world. Some believe flying cars will revolutionize mobility and radically transform the way we live. Others warn that they may become the biggest source of urban problems ever seen. And you? Have you ever thought about what it would be like to live in a city dominated by flying vehicles? Would you be willing to trade the steering wheel for a joystick and see the sky packed with traffic? Stay with me until the end, because in this video, we'll explore the incredible possibilities, the social dilemmas, and the massive risks that would arise once flying cars finally become part of our daily lives. If flying cars really begin to dominate cities, the first major revolution will be technological. After all, we're not just talking about adapting regular vehicles to fly, but about creating an entirely new category of transport that blends aviation concepts with urban mobility. And here comes the first big question. Do we already have enough technology to sustain this change? Imagine the impact of thousands of cars flying at the same time. It would be necessary to create urban air navigation systems as complex as those used today by commercial airplanes. Control towers, defined air routes, artificial intelligence software capable of coordinating every movement. Without this kind of structure, the sky would turn into true chaos, where accidents could happen at any moment. Another crucial point is energy. Most current projects rely on electric engines powered by high-capacity batteries. But would these batteries really be able to sustain long journeys without constant recharging? Or would we live in a future where every flying car would have to land several times a day just to refuel? And what about the recharging infrastructure? Would we have aerial stations scattered across buildings and skyscrapers? And if we think about the science behind it, the necessary advancements would be enormous. We would need to master ultralight, resistant materials, develop safety systems capable of protecting passengers in case of a fall, and create flawless algorithms to avoid collisions. Are we really ready to entrust the lives of millions of people to machines flying above our heads? There's also the issue of automation. Many experts believe that flying cars would not be piloted by humans, but controlled by artificial intelligence. This would reduce human error, but also raises a controversy. Are we ready to completely hand over control of our mobility to machines? What would happen if there were a failure in the central system that commands all vehicles? A simple bug could cause massive disasters. And finally, think about the long-term technological impact. If today, we are already living through a digital transformation with smartphones, the Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence, imagine when urban air transport becomes a reality. Our cities would need to be rebuilt to accommodate landing platforms, aerial corridors, and constant monitoring systems. Would this advancement be an evolutionary leap for humanity, or just another step toward an ever-growing dependence on technology? And you? Would you trust your life to a flying car controlled by artificial intelligence? If flying cars become a reality and dominate cities, the transformations would not be limited to technology. They would directly affect the way we live in society, how politics is organized, and even how the global economy works. Let's start with society. Have you ever imagined what it would be like to live in a world where traffic is no longer just on the ground? On one hand, this could reduce congestion, since part of the population would move through the skies. But at the same time, new inequalities would arise. After all, who would have access to this technology in the beginning? Most likely only the wealthiest, who could travel above regular traffic, while the majority remained stuck in crowded streets. Would flying cars create a new form of social segregation, dividing those who can fly and those who are forced to stay on the ground? In politics, the situation would be even more delicate. Governments would need to establish extremely strict laws and regulations to control this new form of transport. Imagine the responsibility of managing flight licenses, supervising urban air safety, and dealing with possible crimes committed in the skies above cities. It would be like creating an air police, responsible for monitoring thousands of flying vehicles every day. Would governments really be prepared for this challenge, or would power be concentrated in the hands of large private corporations that control the entire technology? And we can't forget the issue of safety. If today we already face serious problems with traffic accidents, what would happen when accidents start occurring in the air? A collision between two flying cars could mean wreckage falling on houses, buildings, and streets full of people. Legal responsibility in such cases would be a huge challenge. Whose fault would it be? The passenger, the manufacturing company, or the artificial intelligence system that controls the flights? Now let's talk about the economy. The impact would be enormous. New sectors would emerge, such as companies specializing in flying vehicle maintenance, landing platform infrastructure, and even specific insurance for urban air accidents. On the other hand, entire industries could collapse. Oil companies, traditional automobile manufacturers, and even public transportation systems could lose relevance in the face of the rise of personal aerial vehicles. And what about the real estate market? Imagine living in a building with an aerial garage on the rooftop, allowing residents to take off and land directly at home. This would increase the value of some properties and make others practically obsolete. Cities would undergo a complete transformation in their spatial organization. But here comes the big question: would this advancement benefit everyone, or just widen the gap between the rich and the poor? Would we be heading toward a future of freedom and limitless mobility, or toward an even more unequal society where a few control the skies while many remain stuck to the ground? And you, would you like to live in a city where flying cars hover above your home every day? When we think of a future dominated by flying cars, what we see is a world full of possibilities, but also risks that could completely change the destiny of cities and even humanity itself. In the most optimistic scenario, flying cars would be accessible to everyone, operating in a sustainable and safe way. Congested streets would become a thing of the past, pollution levels would drastically decrease with high-efficiency electric engines, and cities would begin to be organized in 3 dimensions: ground, sky, and even suspended platforms in the air. In this ideal future, mobility would no longer be a problem, and the time lost in traffic jams would give way to more productivity, leisure, and quality of life. But there is also an intermediate scenario, where flying cars become a reality, but only for a privileged portion of the population. In this case, the skies of cities would be dominated by the wealthy, while the rest would continue to face traffic problems on the streets. This could increase social inequalities, generate political tensions, and even spark protests against the exclusive use of this technology. After all, would it be fair for only a few to enjoy such freedom? Now imagine the worst-case scenario: chaos. Without efficient regulation, cities could turn into true chaotic mazes of vehicles flying in different directions. The risk of accidents would be extremely high, the skies would be visually polluted by thousands of machines, and the constant noise could make life unbearable. Furthermore, the environmental impact could be disastrous if the technology were not truly sustainable, turning flying cars into just another form of pollution. And there's still a futuristic and philosophical scenario: the rise of cities fully adapted to the air, with buildings designed to accommodate landings, new forms of suspended commerce, and even the creation of international routes through the sky. At this point, flying cars might no longer be just a means of transport, but could completely redefine the very idea of living in a city. In the end, everything depends on how humanity will handle this technology. Will we have the wisdom to use it in a fair, sustainable, and safe way? Or will we turn the skies into a new arena of dispute, inequality, and chaos? And you, do you believe that flying cars will be the ultimate solution to urban problems, or just another futuristic dream full of challenges?